Murray, and this morning I'm going to be giving you an unclassified information brief on Stand 6, the offensive. Before we get started on the briefing, I want to give you an orientation on the map board as well as the village itself. Looking at the tactical importance, you have two main components: the support by fire position with a machine gun, as well as the scheme of maneuver for the forces, the detachment, all the way to just shy of the Hoover Hotel. Right directly behind you, about 50 meters, is the Hoover Hotel, and in this direction would have been the coal bins. All right, in order to describe what happened during Stand 6, we have to go back to Stand 5. Stand 5 at the regimental headquarters. Once that detachment gained fire superiority, the command forward march was given. That's the command to attack. Once they gave the command by Lieutenant Castleman and Sergeant Fody, what they did was everyone jumped on their feet. Now, Sergeant Fody was surprised when he looked over his shoulder and saw that all 23 of his soldiers were still there, no casualties. Now, to put that in perspective, by today's standards, that's like 2 infantry squads, a fire team, a platoon leader, and a platoon sergeant. So as they pushed forward, they stayed north of the hospital, the whole time in contact with the Mexican forces vicinity of the coal bins. They were able to push them back to the hotel, which you see right over here, where they had to go into a defensive posture. At the same time, Lieutenant Lucas put the first machine gun into action. Now, as you can see, the field of fire from this position is excellent. Goes all the way from the hospital and covers all the way to the east. Now, unfortunately, they had 20 Mexicans in their sights. When they put it into action, they only got 4 to 6 rounds, and then can I just wait? Because that'll screw it up. Unfortunately, they only got 4 to 6 rounds out, and it jammed. At that time, Lieutenant Lucas took off back to the barracks to get a machine gun to put back into action. Now, unfortunately, that machine gun team had to move from the stables to the hospital. Because remember, this time of the morning, it was still dark. The only thing they could see was the hospital. So they moved, and that's approximately 75 meters. Once they moved there, the medics kicked them out, said, "You can't come in here." So if you can imagine a corporal and a private with fighting to the north, south, east, and west, with no light, with a new piece of equipment, they were a little stressed. They didn't have, our handy-dandy headlamp with a red lens flashlight. They didn't have that option. So at the same time, they were still in the defensive posture, the detachment, so the offense had stagnated. Now, one of the main reasons that is because communication. The only communication they had back then was a bugler. Now, a bugler was just used for special commands, attack, defend, and very simple tasks to trigger something. I don't care what kind of bugler you have in your regiment, he's not going to be able to convey a weapons jam, or that you have forces on north, south, east, west. So everything was by messenger. So in order for us to assess the overall accomplishment during Stand 6, we used the same criteria from the previous stands: the NCO creed and the Army values. The NCO creed: I will not use my grade or position to attain pleasure, profit, or personal safety. Now, when you look at that with this detachment, they put themselves in harm's way, the leadership. Now, when they did that, they basically put themselves at the greatest point of friction. Now, when you do that, you allow yourself to make timely decisions and most likely save some lives inside the village. Now moving to the Army values. During this raid, it's been debated, and it will still be debated for many, many years as to why did Pancho Villa raid Columbus? Or was the Army ready? Were the key leaders in the right position? Did they make the right decisions? But there's two things that'll never be debated. And that's that detachment's dedication to duty and their mission to safeguard Columbus, as well as personal courage in the line of fire. That will never, ever be in question or debated in regards to Stand 6, the offensive. That concludes my briefing on Stand 6. Do I have any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
They suffered documented 2 casualties. Okay, you had a PFC Jesse Taylor. A PFC Jesse Taylor. He was shot in the leg. When he was shot in the leg, there was such an intense firefight from the Mexican forces that were withdrawing, they couldn't render aid, and he eventually died of his wounds. All right, so to answer the question, that's the casualties that they suffered during Stand 6. If there are no further questions, I'll be followed by Stand 7.